Good morning, everyone. This is John Stokoe from Source My Property and Source My Property Academy. And today I have the esteemed pleasure of hosting and talking to Tina Walsh, who has written a book on property sourcing compliance, which you know to us is very, very important. Good morning, Tina. How are you?
Good morning, John. I'm very well, thank you.
Good to have you with us. Just in the interest of time, we just try and get stuck into this. Otherwise, I don't want to have people having to hold on for half an hour going through you and I babbling on about stuff. But just very briefly, for those who don't understand, property sourcing. Property sourcing is the process of finding, packaging up, and then selling on an investment grade deal to an investor. So really, you are the middleman between the property and the investor. It is exceedingly attractive to a lot of people, and some of the main reasons for that is they do not have the time, they might not have the skills, or they might not have the knowledge to be finding properties that are of a specific grade that they want to put into their property portfolio. So that's where the likes of ourselves and other businesses are involved. We find those specific deals and we put them and make them available to investors, whether they be local or international. Now, through that process, an integral part of what we do is compliance. It is massively important. In fact, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are out there that are not compliant, but we know how important it is. And this is why we've roped in Tina to be working with us at Source My Property Academy, which we'll talk to a little bit later. But just briefly, Tina, please tell us about you and how you came about to be writing a book.
Oh, well, it's a very interesting story. But in 2011, 2012, Tony and I, my husband Tony, we were wanting to start a business for when Tony retired from the police. And we were working with a mentor, and following sitting down and chatting with him, he said, well, you love property, but you don't want to invest in it at this moment in time. So why not consider property sourcing? And I said, what's that? And he said, go off and research it. So in January 2012, that was where it all started. I spent 10 months networking at our mentor's events to find the investors who were cash rich and time poor and wanted to invest in the north where we are to work with, but also studying the legislation and regulation and pulling together what was required in a compliant business, and that's how it all started.
Awesome. Now property sourcing, as you mentioned, isn't a new concept. It's been around for some time. Some people call it, we like to call ourselves property specialists. You can call it property sources. Some people call it packaging. There's a couple of different terms, but in that space, there are a few people, and there's a number of startups, a number of education companies. Could you tell us what the associated risks are of not being compliant? Now, there's two definite sides. There's the initial part when you're setting up the business, and then there's also the very important part of investors. Can you just briefly touch over what some of the risks are?
The initial parts for the legally required registrations are that if you fail to register and you're caught, every time you are caught for each of the registrations, and there are 3 of them, it's up to £5,000 fine each for each time that you're caught.
Wow. Okay, no, that's heavy. And are these are the redress systems that you're talking about?
It's the Ombudsman, the Data Protection Registration, the Money Laundering Registration that are the key registrations. Ongoing, if you're in breach of any of those regulations and legislation, the maximum fine is up to unlimited and up to 14 years imprisonment for serious breaches of the money laundering regulations. So it isn't something that you can joke about. It is a serious business, and people need to really start taking it seriously, because trust me, as far as money laundering is concerned, the government and HMRC are taking it seriously. And we all know how you can negotiate with HMRC, don't we?
Oh, no. Now, to some people that might think of that, oh, that's just an idle threat and they won't catch me. Are there examples of people that have been caught and have specifically been fined?
It's interesting to note that HMRC in the last 12, 18 months have actually set up a department purely for estate agency type businesses. In the last report that the National Crime Agency issued, of all of the SARS, the suspicious activity reports that were submitted, that you're supposed to submit to the National Crime Agency if you suspect suspicious activity for money laundering, the estate agency sector only submitted 0.12% of those reports. Out of 760 something thousand, we submitted 760 something. So you can imagine why the government and HMRC and the National Crime Agency believe that as a sector, estate agency businesses are not doing all that we should do to fight money laundering on the front line. So they are starting to issue six-figure fines to estate agency type businesses, not because they're laundering money, John, but because they don't have policies and procedures in place to detect if money is being laundered. And that is the key thing.
Okay.
Yes, they don't give us named people. They don't even say how many in our sector at the moment. What HMRC are thinking of doing is issuing a report. They give us an overall picture of how many fines have been issued. And last year, believe it or not, it had gone up by about 50% from the year before, and it's approaching 1.2 million in fines a year at this moment in time.
So these are absolutely not just idle threats. And this is something that concerned me when I entered into this arena, when it was almost a need to start sourcing, because we entered into the investment arena. Like most people, we run out of money quite quickly. So property sourcing is a very easy way to stay in the industry, stay current, and stay knowledgeable with what's going on, at the same time build your portfolio and build other people's portfolio. But the way that myself and Roger looked at it is compliance is that important. I come from an ex-banking and ex-city background. So every year we had to take our exams and all the rest and make sure that we were compliant. So Roger's ex-military, and he comes from that point of view. So doing things the right way the first time was very, very important to us. So we did our research initially, and fortunately enough, we stumbled onto your book before we set everything up, and we made sure that we were completely compliant before we started the business. I think this is one of the key things that's actually helped our business grow as well. And it's very sad to notice, especially with proliferation of internet and Facebook pages that you can sell deals, how many people are just, hey, I've got a deal, just buy this deal sort of thing, and how many people are not actually compliant. And this is part of what we are doing, and one of the rationales behind us setting up the academy is that we want to teach people the right way to do it. It is a legitimate area. It is something that is followed and looked after by redress systems. So it's fantastic. It's a phenomenal way to make a lot of money. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's an awesome way to do it, but you need to make sure that you're absolutely and fundamentally just tick all the boxes, and this is where this came along. Can you just briefly run through some of the chapters and what's covered in the book for people out there in property land?
It covers basically from thinking about the type of company setup that you want and structuring some of those companies, such as limited companies or liability partnerships or sole trader. It covers your regulatory required registrations, such as the Ombudsman and data protection and money laundering. It goes into, in great depth, I think you may remember the due diligence section for sellers, property and for investors. And it talks people through exactly how we operated and the due diligence, the levels of due diligence that we go to on our investors, on sellers and on property, not just to protect us, but to protect our investors who are paying us, as I'm sure you will agree, a very nice sum of money for providing them a professional service. But that service must be professional to warrant the level of the fees that we charge. And I think the point that you make about everyone needing to be compliant is a great one. Regulations are only going to be tightened. And if you can be compliant now and understand what compliance means and looks like, then you're definitely ahead of the curve.
Sure.
And re-educating investors to ask questions. If you're the only person in your area that can answer those questions, then you will get the work of the investor, and we will get rid of all of the unscrupulous sources out of
Cowboys.
the industry.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's more work for all of us that are actually compliant. And I achieved my goal of 100% compliance and really majorly raise the level of professionalism in the sector, John. That's the goal.
And that's exactly what we're doing. When we were asked through our success, a lot of people asked us how we did what we did, how we do what we do. And the natural offshoot from that was to create the academy. And one of the essential parts was obviously going to be compliant. Now, from my point of view, is it something that I'm 100% up to date with? As far as I'm concerned, yes. Do I have a super in-depth knowledge about that? And am I in a position where I can educate people categorically to ensure that everything is covered? I'll be blatantly honest and say, no, not completely. So this is why, from our point of view, I had to ensure that we had one of the market leaders in our space come and educate, and this is why we've brought you along. So everybody that is joining our academy that will come along to our 2 days in April or any subsequent months that we're going to have, we are going to enroll, and it is that important to us that we will pay for each individual to attend a free day on one of your courses. It's that important that we will pay that, so that anybody that is associated with us will go through the complete and proper training so that they have the opportunity and ability to be completely compliant coming out the other side. And then they'll obviously be able to kick off and start their business on the right foot. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking about that. Well, that's a lot of information. It's so difficult. I don't think it's difficult at all. It's just understanding what ABC is and just making sure that you're compliant across those space, and just understanding a little bit about why that's the case. So yeah, from our point of view, it was an absolute no-brainer to get you along. For the students that are looking at coming along, what could you tell them, one, about us, about why we're thinking that's important, and also what we're going to be teaching them and what you're going to cover on those 2 days?
On the days that we chat about, we're going to be talking about initially setting up the business and the required registrations, and then a little bit about the due diligence processes and the registration process that I use in my own business, and that great word, I don't know if you use it as well, but how to get rid of the tire kickers, John.
Oh yeah. It's all about creating efficiencies in a business, and a lot of people just look at it and they go, "Oh, I'm just a sourcing agent." No. This is a business. You've got to look at it as a business, how to structure it and how to create efficiencies so that you spend less time making more money. Really,
sourcing is time consuming, and we don't get paid until the end result. So you have to streamline that process as much as you can do, and try to get rid of the time wasters as early in that process as you can do. So we'll be chatting a little bit about that as well, and some really good information and some examples as well about where things have gone wrong and lessons that I've learned.
I think that's also very important. Is if anybody said that they'd been perfect through their life, I don't think that's the case. But obviously, understanding and learning from the lessons that we have both learned, we can only impart that knowledge and give that knowledge onto our students to make sure that they are success. Because from my point of view, and I know you think the same, the more students that we have that are success, the better that then reflects onto us and our business and our brand overall.
It does, and it raises standards across the industry. It makes it safer for us, for you and I, to work in there, as well as investors out there as well, which is key at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm all behind cleaning it up. If there's fewer of us doing it the right way, then it's just better for all of us. But I'm not about having less people in there. I'm about having more people that are more compliant, just to clean up that whole industry overall. So that's what it's all about. All right, Tina, I thank you very much for your time, but that's just a snippet, folks, of what's going to be available on the course. The course is the 27th and 28th of April, 28th and 29th, anyway, it's that weekend, the last weekend of April. I will put the link to the course above and below this, wherever it may be, on YouTube or Facebook and what have you. I'm also going to link in Tina on her Facebook page as well, so you can go and have a look at her there. Tina, the book, are we going to look after some of the students with the book as well?
Yes, those that actually come on my one-day workshop will get a free copy of my book when they attend.
That's awesome. So you don't, well, if you want to buy one now, fantastic. Sometimes when I find an important book, I do end up buying it twice, but so it's not a problem. It'll always line Tina's coffers, which I'm sure she won't mind about. But yes, folks, that's the academy, which is coming up at the end of April. Tina is absolutely going to be there. I'm mega super excited to have her with us. It is that important to us, and it's really going to help you grow and explode your business, take your business to the next level. The link will be below there. If you have any questions, give me a shout. I look forward to it, and we'll be seeing you soon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch up soon. Ta-da. Cheers, Tina.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.